Praise God, everyone. Praise God, and welcome to this episode, this edition of the Sunday Supper. I thank you so much for tuning in this Sunday to join me here at the table so that we could talk about things that, of the Bible here in the book of Numbers and to discuss some things that's going on with the children of Israel. We know that Moses, right now, he had to appoint a leader over the people because they were asking for someone to be over them. So God did grant that wish of theirs so that they'll be able to have someone that they can look at and truly have someone that could take control of them, someone that they can look at, someone that they can go to who would be in charge. We know that Moses right now is filling in the role of the prophet, the one who's able to speak to God, receive the instructions, and to be able to go back to them and to explain to them, okay, this is what God said concerning this. This is what God said concerning that. This is what we must do so that we could be in right standing with God and, so that we could actually be able to move forward. Yeah, because we understand that there were some times that came before the children of Israel where they truly had to face some things. They had to face adversity. They had to face themselves. They had to face their inner disobedient parts of them, and God did not play with their disobedience during this time either, because once they did so, God began to strike them down, gave them orders, even told people that they will not see the entering of the promised land, but their seed will. So at this time, God is truly trying to get his people to be serious, try to set them on a straight path to success. But sometimes they truly did not follow that. So we are here now talking about these holy convocations. And when we talk about the holy convocations, we're talking about the meetings that they had to have. And then God called them to come forth to have a meeting. And this is when God laid out certain sacrifices, or should I say offerings, that had to have been made for different things. The Sabbath had an offering, and every day they had a different offering, and then there were additional offerings that were placed on them. So we're at a time now where God is truly laying the foundation. Well, truly not the foundation, but he is adding on to the foundation that the people, the children of Israel, had to follow. So we are now in chapter 29 of the book of Numbers. And the book of Numbers, chapter 29, begins like this. So in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a holy convocation. Remember, that's a meeting. You shall do no regular work. So no regular work should be done. It is a day of blowing of shofars to you. Remember, these shofars, they are the horns of like a ram, something like that, they kind of cut the end so that they could blow through to make a certain sound with the shofars. So this is what they must do. So it says, you shall offer a burnt offering for a pleasant aroma to the Lord. One young bull, one ram, 7 male lambs a year old without defect. And their meal offering, fine flour mixed with oil, 3 tenths for the bull, 2 tenths for the ram, and 1 tenth for every lamb of the 7 lambs. 1 male goat for a sin offering to make atonement for you, in addition to the burnt offering of the new moon. I want you to remember the new moon, because this is going to come around later on. So new moon with its meal offering, and the continual burnt offering with a meal offering, and their drink offerings, according to their ordinance, for a pleasant aroma, an offering made by fire to the Lord. So that is what must happen on that day. So now, on the 10th day, on the 10th day of the 7th month, you shall have another holy convocation, another meeting. You shall afflict your souls. Now, what does that mean? It says, you shall do no kind of work, but you shall offer a burnt offering to the Lord for a pleasant aroma. One young bull, one ram, 7 male lambs, a year old, all without defect, in their meal offering. Fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 for the bull, 2/10 for the one ram, 1/10 for every lamb. Of the 7 lambs, remember, these are 7 lambs, one male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the sin offering of atonement, and the continual burnt offering and its meal offering and their drink offering. Remember, there is a continual burn that must happen. So the continual burn is this burn that they do every day. This is that burnt offering. So they continue to have this offering going forth. But these offerings here, these are the ones in addition to, not in replace of or in place of, but these are in addition to. So they have their daily requirements. And then on top of that, God is truly trying to get them to understand that there is more of a requirement that must be made. So on the 15th day of the 7th month. So now we have the first day, we have the 7th day, and now we have the 15th day. You shall do no regular work. So this is another. You shall keep a feast to the Lord for 7 days. You shall, for a burnt offering, you shall offer a burnt offering and an offering made by fire of pleasant aroma to the Lord. Now, this pleasant aroma has to be one that you're putting forth this offering, but it has to be done right. It has to be done in accordance with what God is saying. Because if there is one thing off, and it's not completely right, then it does not become a pleasant aroma in the nostrils of God. Instead, it becomes a stench, which means that now God is angry. So they truly had to follow exactly what God is saying. And without them doing so, we know that they really ran the risk of getting into some trouble. And this is not, well, that is not something that they want to happen, because they've seen what God can do when he gets angry at them. So you shall offer a burnt offering made by fire, a pleasant aroma to the Lord. 13 young bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, a year old, without defect, and their meal offering. Fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 for every bull. Of the 13 bulls, 2/10 of each ram of the 2 rams, and 1/10 for every lamb of the 14 lambs, and 1 male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the continual burnt offering, its meal offering, and its drink offering. So we can see, and like I said last week and before, these animals have to truly be procreating in order to keep up with the amount of offerings that must be made. And then we start to wonder, well, how does any lamb grow above a year old if we're always making these sacrifices or offerings? I mean, because this is a lot. All right. So on the second day, you shall offer 12 young bulls. Remember, because the meal has to be for 7 days. This is a 7-day meal thing that has to be to the Lord. So on the second day, you shall offer 12 young bulls, 2 rams. Here we go again. 14 male lambs, a year old without defect, and a meal offering and a drink offering for the bulls, for the rams, and for the lambs, according to the number after their ordinance. And 1 male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the continual burnt offering, with its meal offering and their drink offering. On the third day, 11 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs, a year old without defect, and their meal offering and their drink offering for the bulls, for the rams and for the lambs, according to their number after the ordinance, and 1 male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the continual burnt offering and its meal offering and its drink offering. Remember, this drink offering is that strong drink that they had during that time, and that's what they had to do. So now, this continued. Remember, for the 7 days. So for the 7 days, they continue to do all of this. I'm not going to read through all 7 days, but I'm going to skip down to on the 8th day. So it says on the 8th day, which is down in verse 35. It says, on the 8th day, you shall have a solemn assembly. You shall do no regular work, but you shall offer a burnt offering and an offering made by fire, a pleasant aroma to the Lord. 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs, a year old without defect, their meal offering and their drink offerings. For the 1 bull, for the ram and lamb shall be to their number after the ordinance. We know that the meal offering is a 10th per animal, and 1 male goat for a sin offering, in addition to the continual burnt offering. Now, he says that you shall offer these to the Lord in your set feast, in addition to your vows and your free will offerings, for your burnt offerings, your meal offerings, your drink offerings, and your peace offerings. Moses told the children of Israel according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So now Moses, like I said, Moses being the prophet during this time, explaining to them exactly what God had told him to tell the children of Israel. These ordinances must be set, they must be followed, and they have to be followed, in accordance with what God is saying, the process that it must be done. So if God said, okay, I want 7 bulls, but I want them washed in accordance with this way or whatever, however it may be. If he wanted them, say, their sacrifice, the killing of the animal, if he wanted it done in a certain way, then they had to do it that way. It's doing things in order. Like some of our services, if we do them right, if we do them in accordance with what the Holy Spirit tells us, has us to do, then it becomes a pleasant aroma in God's nostrils. It becomes a pleasant sound through God's ears. It becomes a pleasant sight in God's sight. It's all about coming together in a meeting, but having the one who has listened or has heard from God lay down the ordinances during this time for them to follow. And then these are set feasts that they must have. So if they have a feast, they must follow these. And God is saying you must have these feasts for 7 days. And he laid out the laws or the rules for all 7 days. So this is a God who's all about order. And we can say this is also a God who is all about preparation. Because if he has told you how he wanted wanted everything done. He's giving you time to prepare to have it done in that way. So he is a God of one, order, and he is a God of two, preparation. He is not a guy who is just going to say, okay, bam, you must do this now, or whatever. In some instances, he may do that. But when it comes to this, because of how it must be done and it must be carried out, God realizes that, okay, I'm going to give the people time, an advance warning, a forewarning, so that they know what is coming, so that they can prepare for it. They will have their animals picked out, and they know that going forth for 7 days that this is how we're going to do this. So kudos to God, right? For getting everything together. All right. Chapter 30 now. Chapter 30. Here we go. It says, Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the children of Israel. Remember, they're people in charge of these tribes, but also there is one man who's in charge of all the tribes. All right, so he spoke to them, to the heads, and he said, this is the thing which the which the Lord had commanded. So now he is breaking it down, and he is telling them what the Lord is commanding for them to do. And he says, when a man vows a vow to the Lord, or swears an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. So if a man makes a vow to the Lord, Father, I vow to do this. Father, I vow to do that. This vow that he is making, it's really a promise that he's making to God. So if he makes a promise to God that he's going to do such a thing, then this man's vow bonds his soul, to the Lord with the bond, right? So he says he shall not break his vow. Now, I know sometimes we make a promise to people. I promise to do this. I promise to be there with you through thick and through thin, and all these other things that we say and we do. But right now, you make a vow to the God. You make a vow to the Lord. Hey, I'm going to do this. Hey, I'm going to do that. But if you don't do it, you break that vow. That is not a good thing to break a vow unto the Lord. It's not. All right, so continuing on, it says, also, when a woman vows a vow to the Lord and binds herself by a pledge, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and her pledge, with which she has bound her soul, and her father says nothing to her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge with which she has bound her soul shall stand. But if her father forbids her in the day that he hears, none of her vows or her pledges with which she has bound her soul shall stand. The Lord will forgive her because her father has forbidden her. So her father has the power and the ability to stop her vow to the Lord. So it says, look, if a woman makes a pledge, makes a vow unto the Lord, right? It's a vow. So she's saying what she promises, or whatever the vow may be, right? She's saying this to the Lord. If her father hears it, and she's still living with her father, so if her father hears it and he says nothing, then that vow is being honored, right? It is being accepted. But if she makes this vow unto the Lord and her father says something, and he's not in agreement, so he's not in agreement with it, he knows that she's not going to be able to see it through or whatever, because the father knows his daughter and whatnot. So if he says anything about it, or he forbids this vow to move forward, then God will step in and say, you know what? Okay, you are forgiven of this vow because your father has spoken up. Right? So, fathers know your daughters. So now, let's talk about with a married woman. So, if she has a husband while her vows are on her, or the rash utterance of her lips with which she has bound her soul, and her husband hears it and says nothing to her in the day that he hears it, then her vows shall stand, and her pledges with which she has bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband forbids her in the day that he hears it, and then he makes her void her vow, which is on her, in the rash utterance of her lips, with which she has bound her soul, the Lord will forgive her. So the man at this point, the man has the say so over the woman. So just like in a young lady in her father's house, if her father hears it, he forbids what she is saying, it is forgiven by the Lord. Now, if she is now married and the husband hears it and he forbids it, she is now forgiven by the Lord. So the head of household, as we say, or the man of the house, has the power to just void that vow that she has made unto God. And I know some people will have an issue with it. Well, how can he step in and he can do this, blah, blah, blah. It's because God said it. Simple answer. Because God said it. All right. But the vow of a widow or of her who is divorced, everything with which she has bound her soul shall stand against her. She has no way out. No way out. Because she has no man or no male to be able to forbid what she has said. So now everything that she has said, and she may want to go against it now that she has no one or whatever, she cannot do that. She cannot do so because the man was the only one who was able to forbid what was being said. So if she vowed in her husband's house or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it and held his peace at her and didn't disallow her, then all her vows shall stand, and every pledge with which she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband made them null and void in the day that he heard them, then whatever proceeded out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband has made them void. The Lord will forgive her every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul. Her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. But if her husband says nothing to her from day to day, then he reestablishes all her vows or all her pledges which are on her. He has established them because he has said nothing to her in the day that he heard them. But if he makes them null and void after he has heard them, then he shall bear, watch this, her iniquity. It now passes on to him because he allowed for it to happen. He let her say whatever she said, whatever agreement she had with God or whatever it may have been. He allowed for her to do that, and he allowed for it to go forth. And the thing is now, after he has done so, now he wants to try to make it null and void. No, it's too late. You have already said it. I mean, you have already allowed it. You kept your mouth shut. You were silent. You just, whatever she do is what she do type of mentality. And now you want to make it null and void. Well, guess what? She breaks that vow because of you. You now bear the iniquity of it because you allowed for it. You should have opened your mouth when she was making it, but you didn't. You sat back and you did nothing. And you allowed for her words, and however these words came forth, whether it was during a time which she, might have been emotional or whatever it could have been. You should have stepped in, but the man didn't. So if the man didn't step in, then you now bear it. You bear the iniquity, which means that you now bear the punishment of what is going to happen. So it says, these are the statutes of the Lord, which the Lord commanded Moses between a man and his wife, between a father and his daughter, being in her youth, in her father's house. So, in other words, we can kind of let's fast forward to today and say, men of God, men of the household, man in charge. If you hear such a thing, you must shut it down. If you know that, listen, that's not a vow you want to make. That is not a promise you want to make. Shut it down. Because I know we're living in a time of grace and we're living in a time of forgiveness and everything else and mercy and all that. But what the principle of it, right? Let's talk about the principle of it. The principle of knowing what God, who he is, knowing how God is, knowing that he's a guy that, wants to see the best or wants the best for us. And I know we don't want to take advantage of his grace and of his mercy. But when you hear your wife or your daughters, whatever, say things that they're not going to be able to live up to, make a promise. Let's just say sell themselves into a debt that they cannot repay. Speak up. Say something. Why sit back and allow for it to go through when you don't have to? When they don't have to go through it? Because these things can lead to a hardship. And once someone is in a hardship, right, that is the only thing that is on their mind. They're forgetting about God at that time, but their focus is on the hardship. So even now, let's speak up. Let's speak up. Let's say something. Amen. Chapter 31. This is what we'll end with tonight. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, avenge the children of Israel in the Midianites. Or should I say, on the Midianites. All right. So afterward, you shall be gathered to your people. So now God is talking about avenging some things here. So he's telling Moses, avenge what happened between you and the Midianites. So Moses spoke to the people saying, arm men from among you for war. Let's get ready to go to war, that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. So God says, it's time. It's time. Get the men ready for battle. It's time to move. There's an order that came across, the lines. And these orders read, get ready for battle, get the men ready, arm them, and this is our enemy. So it says, you shall send 1,000 out of every tribe. And we know that these tribes are full of people and full of men that are capable of going into battle. We went through the numbers in the last few chapters of how many men that are of age, that are able to go into battle. And each tribe had thousands of men that were ready and armed, well, maybe not armed, but ready, of age, to train for war and train for battle, and to be able to execute it if called upon. Well, it's time to be called upon. So throughout all the tribes of Israel to the war. So there were delivered out of the thousands of Israel, 1,000 from every tribe. So we know that there are 12 tribes in the children of Israel. 12 tribes make up the children of Israel. And so, since 12 tribes make up the children of Israel, we know that we have 1,000 men coming out of each tribe. So, we know that we have 12,000 men that are about to go into war. All right. So, it says, Moses sent them 1,000 of every tribe to the war with Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, to the war with the vessels of the sanctuary, and the shofars for the alarm in his hand. So the shofars, the sound of the shofars, we talked about this before. The sound of the shofars will be the sign or the signal for men to follow, to know that, okay, it's time, let's move. And there, even today, different sounds, different trumpet sounds, and I talked about this before. Different trumpet sounds mean different things when it comes to our military today. So these trumpet sounds, say in a ceremony or whatever, will signify something different needs to take place. Right now, we are at this process, or at this point with this process of carrying out this ceremony, or a different audible sound can be an alarm for something different, or something, that must go on. There's an alarm for, say, a chemical, a nuclear or biological agent that could be in the air. There's a sound for that that comes from an alarm. And then there's a sound for, there's a sound for something coming by air. Missile, incoming is what it's called, or what you say. And so you have a sound for that. There's different sounds that happen. So if they were all the same sound, you would never know what was going on. You would have to say, okay, is it this? Is it that? You would try to figure it out. But because of the difference, the sounds, they differentiate something different happening, you'll be able to know what is going on and be able to respond and react based upon the sound of the alarm, or now here with the shofar. Okay. So they fought against Midian as the Lord commanded Moses. They killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian with the rest of their slain. Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. The children of Israel took the women of Midian captive with their little ones and all their livestock, all their flocks and all their goods they took as plunder. So they spared the lives of the women and children, but now the women and children become slaves, right? So all their cities and their places in which they lived and all their encampments they burned with fire. They took all captives and all the plunder, both man and animal. They brought the captives with the prey and the plunder to Moses and to Eleazar the priest and to the congregation of the children of Israel, to the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by the Jordan at Jericho. Moses and Eleazar the priest, with all the princes of the congregation, went out to meet them outside of the camp. So they were not, as we know, God doesn't like strangers inside of the camp. So he keeps them outside the camp, away from what is going on in this holy area, right? So Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the captains of the thousand and captains of hundreds, who came from the service of the war. Moses said to them, "Have you saved all the women alive? Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor. And so the plague was among the congregation of the Lord." Now, watch this. "Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known man by lying with him. But all the girls who have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves." So if any woman has a child, she has to die. But the virgins you keep. It's a tough order, right? That is a tough order that they have to follow now. Every woman who know man, who has a child because she lied with a man, right? He has to kill the male child and the mother, the woman. Or even if she was married to one of the men, she still lied with the man. She has to die. This is a hard thing. But we know that there is a reason behind why God is saying this, or even Moses is saying that this must be done. We know that there's a reason, and it's to keep the bloodline, the pureness of the bloodline moving forward, right? But at the same time, we're sitting back and we're like, my gosh, they're being ordered to kill children and women. But now, and I'm sure that some of these women would rather be dead than to be held captive by these people. But at the same time, you're thinking like, how do you do this? How do you carry this out? And then, as we would say now, be able to look yourself in the mirror. But they're doing it based upon the instructions that they were given. But that is a hard instruction. Continuing on. Encamp outside of the camp for 7 days, whoever has killed any person, and whoever has touched any slain. Remember, touching a dead body is not a good thing. You made yourself dirty. Purify yourselves on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, you and your captives. You shall purify every garment and all that is made of skin and all work of goat's hair and all things made of wood. Eleazar the priest said to the men of war who went to battle, "This is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded Moses. However, the gold and silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that may withstand fire, you shall make to go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall be purified with the water for impurity." So they are burning. What happens is they are burning things off of these metals, right? So because they're able to withstand fire, they can't be burned. So they are burning the things, some of the impurities off of these things made by metal. And then they continue the process of cleansing it by pouring the water over it. And all that doesn't withstand fire, you shall make to go through the water. You shall wash your clothes on the seventh day, and you shall be clean afterward. You shall come into the camp. So even though they are back, they still have to go through this process of purification. And in order to be purified, to go back into the camp. Remember, like I said, this camp, God keeps it holy. And because it keeps it holy, it means it has to be clean and it has to be purified. So anything that tries to come into the camp has to be purified. If it has anything dirty on it, if it killed a man, or even if you touch any of the slain, then you have to go through the purification process before you are able to enter back into the camp. So the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, count the plunder that was taken, both of man and of animal. You and Eleazar the priest and the heads of the fathers' households of the congregation, and divide the plunder into two parts, between the men skilled in war who went out to battle and all the congregation. Levi, a tribute to the Lord of the men of war who went out to battle, one soul of 500 of the persons, of the cattle, of the donkeys, and the flocks. Take from their half and give it to Eleazar the priest. For the Lord's wave offering of the children of Israel's half, you shall take one dawn out of every 50, of the persons, of the cattle, of the donkeys, and of the flocks, all of the livestock, and give them to the Levites who perform the duty of the Lord's tabernacle. This is God's way of providing to the tribe of Levi, because we know that their duty is to maintain the tabernacle, maintain the Ark of the Covenant. Their job is to make sure that when these things are transported, they're transported safely, and they're transported in the manner in which God has given them the instructions to transport it. So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. And now the plunder over and above the booty which men of war took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 head of cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 persons in all of the women who had not known man by lying with him. The half, which was the portion of those who went out to war, was in number 337,500 sheep, and the Lord's tribute of the sheep was 675. The cattle were 36,000, of which the Lord's tribute was 72. The donkeys were 30,500, of which the Lord's tribute was 61. The persons were 16,000, of whom the Lord's tribute was 32 persons. Moses gave the tribute, which was the Lord's wave offering, to Eleazar the priest, as the Lord commanded Moses, of the children of Israel's half, which Moses divided from the men who fought. Now, the congregation's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 head of cattle, 30,500 donkeys, 16,000 persons. Even of the children of Israel's half, Moses took one dawn out of 50, both of man and animal, and gave them to the Levites who perform the duty of the Lord's tabernacle, as the Lord commanded Moses. The officers who were over thousands of the army, the captains of thousands, and the captains of hundreds came near to Moses. So now they come to Moses. They said to Moses, your servants have taken the sum of the men of war who are under our command. We have a problem. And there lacks not one man of us. We have brought the Lord's offering, what every man found: gold, ornaments, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for your souls before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest took their gold, even all worked jewels, all the gold wave offering that they may offer up to the Lord, of the captains of thousands and of the captains of hundreds was 16,750 shekels. The men of war had taken booty, every man for himself. Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold of the captains of thousands and of hundreds and brought it into the tent of meeting for a memorial of the children of Israel before the Lord. So the process now is complete when it comes to the Midianites and the children of Israel. The battle is over. The children of Israel have won. God's army has come through and did what they were supposed to do. So now, remember, there was a point where they would not even do anything. They would be scared to go to war. But it wasn't until they experienced that first victory that now they see how God is able to do things on their behalf. Even if they were small in numbers going against a great and mighty number of people, God is there for them. And he is continuing to show them that he is going to be there for them. And it continues. So we have a people. We have a people who was able to stand and say that, I'll do it. I'll go. Because they see it. But the bad thing is, at first they didn't have faith in doing it. But it had to be proven to them that they can do it. And they did it. So what are the lessons we can take out of tonight's lesson? One lesson is, don't make a vow to God if you can't live up to it. If you know you can't live up to it. If you know that, yeah, I'm going to make a vow to God. And we do this. We say things to God like, oh, God, I'm going to do this. If you give me this, I'm going to do that. And we know with all intentions that we're not going to follow through on it. But we're going to try to take advantage of his grace and his mercy. We think that by saying things like that, that we are, how can I put it, that we're covered. That we sound deep, that we sound sincere, that we really sound emotional, or whatever it may be. We really do those things. But listen, God is not worried about those things. God just wants your truthfulness, your honesty, your integrity. God honors those things. So if you know that you're not able to, say, follow through on this or follow through on that, then don't make that vow, because God is watching. What needs to happen is we need to say, God, I will try, or God, please help me with this, or help me with that, so that I'll be able to carry that out. And then we must also, as men, be in our rightful place and not close our mouths, but speak up when we need to speak. Open our mouths when we need to open our mouths. I know sometimes we try not to say things in order to keep peace within our households or whatnot, but it is time now for us men, we as men, to truly speak up. Speak up. Be a man. If you don't like the way something's going, speak up. If you don't like what's happening, speak up. Because if you don't, then you will bear what is coming. And what I mean by you will bear, it will affect you because you will be a part of it. And it may be directly or indirectly, you will feel it. So speak up, say something. That's all you have to do. So that is all we have for this evening. I am so thankful that you joined me this evening here at the table. I pray that you receive something out of it. I pray that you receive something out of it. And I pray for each and every one of you that you will continue to follow, the instructions of the Holy Spirit as I continue to follow the instructions of the Holy Spirit. So I pray that you all be blessed. I pray that you have a very blessed week. I pray that you go out and spend time outside. I pray that you really enjoy what God has put together for us. I pray that. I seriously do. I pray that you enjoy what God has put together for us, what He has fashioned for us, what He has spoken into existence. And I pray that you do that and you do it well. And you do it with a whole heart. So for Sunday supper, I want to say, listen, there's always room for you, family, friends, or whoever here at the table. And I pray that you always continue to live your life on purpose. Be blessed, everyone. Have a very blessed week. And I will see you again next week here at the table. Praise God.